It started with a Facebook Live video. The kind you scroll past without thinking twice. A shaky phone camera, a man's voice laughing, and an old woman's trembling hands clutching her walker as strangers tore her life apart in real time. "Y'all see this?" The man behind the camera sneered. "This old lady won't leave. We doing this by the book, baby. Facebook Live right now. Watch how it's done." His words carried across Memphis in seconds. Streamed, shared, and mocked before anyone stopped to ask the most important question. Was it even legal? What no one realized in that moment, not the viewers laughing in the comments, not the man holding the phone, not even the frightened woman on the porch, was that this live stream would expose more than just cruelty. It would expose a scam, a system, and a city's conscience. Because the woman you're about to meet wasn't just a name on a lease. She was 83-year-old Annie Mae Williams, a lifelong Memphis resident who'd lived through segregation, civil rights marches, and 4 generations under one roof. And she was about to lose everything she owned, on camera. Welcome to True Crime Archives. Today's story takes us to Memphis, Tennessee, where an elderly woman's illegal eviction, filmed and mocked on social media, ignited outrage, forced city leaders to act, and revealed how ordinary citizens can become prey to those exploiting the cracks in the justice system. This is the story of 83-year-old illegally evicted on Facebook Live in Memphis. Scamming citizens exposed. It was a humid Tuesday morning, one of those Memphis days where the air feels thick enough to chew. Miss Annie Mae Williams sat in her armchair near the front window of her small brick duplex on Carnes Avenue, fanning herself with an old church bulletin. She'd lived there for 37 years, raised her kids there, buried her husband while still making the mortgage payments. The walls were filled with framed church photos, baby pictures, and handwritten Bible verses she'd taped up decades ago. That morning, she was alone. Her daughter, Clarissa, had gone to work. Her grandson had left early for his shift at FedEx. Then came the knock. 3 hard bangs on the door, sharp, impatient, and unfamiliar. "Ms. Williams?" She froze. "Yes?" "This is the process server. You've been evicted." The words didn't register. "Evicted?" "No, baby, you got the wrong house. I've been paying my rent. You talked to my daughter. She handled all that." But the man wasn't listening. He was already pulling out his phone, pressing go live. On the screen, viewers saw an old woman standing in her doorway, wearing a pink housecoat and slippers, her silver hair wrapped in a scarf. "We out here in Memphis, y'all," the man said into the camera, panning across the yard. "Trying to get this tenant out. She says she don't know what's going on, but the paperwork's clear." There was no deputy present, no court order in sight, just a man in jeans, a printed piece of paper, and a smartphone, broadcasting what looked like a humiliation disguised as duty. "Sir, please," Ms. Williams said softly, gripping her walker. "Ain't nobody told me nothing about no eviction." He smirked. "Ma'am, I don't make the rules. You gotta go." The comments started rolling in. "This ain't right. She looks scared, y'all. Why is he filming this? Old folks ain't safe nowhere." But then others chimed in with laughing emojis, heart reacts, and taunts. By the time the man tried to push open her screen door, more than 2,000 people were watching live. Inside, Ms. Williams began to cry. By noon, the video had been shared across Memphis Facebook groups: Memphis Crime Watch, Midtown Neighbors, 901 Unfiltered. Someone tagged local journalist Tanya Morris, who immediately reposted it with the caption, "Can someone explain why an 83-year-old woman is being put out without a sheriff's deputy present?" That post changed everything. Within hours, Memphis City Councilwoman Yolanda Cooper Sutton saw it on her feed. She was at her office downtown when her assistant burst in. "Councilwoman, you need to see this." They watched in silence as Miss Williams begged, her frail body shaking, while a stranger filmed her front yard like it was a show. "Who authorized this?" Yolanda whispered. "Where's the court order?" Her assistant shook her head. "There isn't one. Commenters are saying no sheriff's deputy was there." "Then that means this isn't an eviction," Yolanda said, standing up. "This is harassment." By 2 p.m., Councilwoman Cooper Sutton was in her car, heading toward Carnes Avenue. She called the Shelby County Sheriff's Office on speaker. "This is Councilwoman Yolanda Cooper Sutton. I'm on my way to a location where an elderly woman's being illegally evicted. It's on Facebook Live right now." "We've seen the video, ma'am," the dispatcher replied. "Deputies are already en route." Meanwhile, back at Miss Williams's home, neighbors had gathered. One woman, Denise, filmed her own video showing the process server pacing on the porch, still live streaming. "Sir, the police are coming," she said firmly. "Good," he snapped. "They'll tell her the same thing I did." But when the deputies arrived, that confidence vanished. Two uniformed officers stepped out of their patrol car, body cameras on, as Councilwoman Cooper Sutton pulled up right behind them. Ms. Williams stood trembling on her porch, clutching her Bible. The man with the phone looked suddenly small. "Sir," one deputy said, "you said you're serving an eviction order?" "Yeah," he muttered, holding up the papers. "You got a court seal?" Not exactly, but I was told." "By who?" The deputy took the papers, looked at them once, and shook his head. "This isn't a legal eviction order. This is a photocopy of a landlord notice. You don't have authority to remove anyone. Turn off that camera." The man hesitated. "I said turn it off." He did. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton stepped forward, placing a hand on Ms. Williams's shoulder. "Ma'am, you're not being evicted today. You're safe now." Ms. Williams began to cry. Tears of relief and exhaustion. What happened next spread even faster than the original video. By evening, Memphis news stations had picked up the story. "Elderly woman illegally evicted on Facebook Live, Councilwoman steps in," headlined every outlet. The sheriff's office issued a statement that same night. No eviction was scheduled at the listed address. The individual who initiated the removal acted without court authorization and is under investigation. But behind the scenes, things got darker. Investigators discovered that the process server, a 42-year-old man named Derek Miles, was part of a small group of unlicensed contractors posing as legal officers, exploiting citizens who didn't know their rights. They charged landlords service fees to deliver fake eviction papers, preying on vulnerable tenants, often the elderly or those without access to legal aid. When reporters reached out for comment, Derek's Facebook page had already vanished, but his live stream and the outrage remained. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton didn't just stop at saving one woman. Within a week, she introduced a motion before the Memphis City Council calling for stricter licensing and oversight for process servers. "This wasn't an isolated act," she said at the hearing. "It was a symptom of a system that allows anyone with a printer and a camera to play law enforcement." Ms. Williams's humiliation went viral, but how many others were silenced? The proposal quickly gained traction. Even the sheriff's office issued support, pledging to launch a new task force focused on unlicensed legal operations. At the press conference, a reporter asked Yolanda what struck her most about that day. "It wasn't the live stream," she said. "It was the way Ms. Williams said, 'Baby, I just want to go back inside my house.' That broke me, because justice should never depend on who's watching online." For days, the original Facebook Live was dissected, duetted, and debated. TikTok creators stitched it with outrage. Legal experts broke down tenant laws in Memphis. Some mocked the process server, others thanked social media for bringing justice. But buried beneath the outrage was a question that lingered like smoke. Would justice have come if no one had been watching? Ms. Williams thought about that often. "Sometimes I thank God that man filmed it," she told a local reporter. "'Cause if he didn't, maybe nobody'd believe me." Her story became a rallying cry, not just for seniors, but for anyone who'd ever felt powerless. 3 weeks after the incident, Derek Miles was arrested and charged with impersonating a public official, harassment, and unlawful entry. Court documents revealed he'd conducted at least 8 similar evictions across Shelby County over the past year. Most of the victims were elderly, low-income residents who assumed he was legitimate because he carried fake paperwork and wore a security badge. His live streams had even generated ad revenue from Facebook's algorithm, pushing them into more feeds, turning people's misery into clicks. When confronted outside court, Derek muttered, "I was just doing my job. They told me it was legal." But no one believed him. The Memphis community didn't just move on. Local pastors, legal aid volunteers, and advocacy groups rallied around Ms. Williams. Donations poured in, enough to pay off her remaining housing balance and repair the old leaky roof she'd been worried about for years. Churches held Know Your Rights seminars. Law students from the University of Memphis began offering free tenant defense workshops. And Councilwoman Cooper Sutton created the Senior Protection Initiative, a hotline where elderly residents could verify any eviction notice before opening their doors. "We turned one woman's pain into prevention," Yolanda said. "That's how change starts." The story of Miss Annie Mae Williams isn't just about an eviction. It's about the weaponization of social media, how a platform meant to connect us can also be used to humiliate and exploit. But it's also about redemption, the kind that rises when ordinary people refuse to scroll past injustice. Because while one man used his phone to harm, thousands used theirs to help. And one councilwoman turned a viral moment into lasting change. Today, Memphis has stricter regulations for process servers, stronger tenant protections, and a hotline that's already saved dozens from fraudulent eviction attempts. Ms. Williams still lives in her little brick duplex on Carnes Avenue. She still sits by the window every morning with her coffee and church bulletin. And every now and then, she'll check her phone, not to fear what might be filmed next, but to smile at the messages from strangers who remind her she's not alone.